Welcome to Legacy Cast, your source for hearing from top influencers and industry experts and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is Legacy Cast. Welcome, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow. Welcome you to the program today. And I have Joe Phelan with me today. He's a fellow Army guy, so lovingly say hua to my brother there on the other end of this. And Joe is also a podcaster, so that's something that's kind of cool. I like to, on occasion, bring in other guys that are doing sort of the same thing because we like to get our word out and sort of touch on different things that are important in the world. But here on Legacy Cast, obviously we talk about things that are important to other people, and that's what we'll be talking with Joe today about. But so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Joe to the program. Welcome, bud.
Thanks so much for having me.
And now, just kind of to touch on the point of legacy, like I always tell people, it means something different to every person. For me, it tends to lean, to the slant of, more of your financial legacy. What are you doing to set up your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and so on. But what does it mean to you personally?
Personally, I think legacy is what's obviously left behind after you're gone. So in my perspective right now, I am not anyone who's speaking as a person who has a legacy. I am 26 years old. I've been doing my business for about 3 years now. I am a snake breeder, podcaster, YouTuber, as well as I have my own media company and I edit podcasts. And basically what I do is try every day just to do the best I can. And slowly with my business, I've kind of narrowed it down into what I'm most passionate about, what I most like. And I believe creating a legacy is taking the steps every single day to get better at your craft or whatever it is. And it takes some sort of focus, at least in my experience so far, to really leave something better than you found it.
Yeah, it's well put. I'm kind of surprised to hear the combination of snake breeder and media company, though. But I guess on some level, that probably does work together.
Yeah. So how it started is I didn't really set out to start a media company. I made my own media for my business, for my snake breeding business, and quietly morphed into something that people started paying me for. So someone started paying me to do commercial videos because they saw my YouTube videos. And then I decided, hey, that's a decent pivot point for me to go on and at least make some money while I am breeding snake, because snakes is my passion. It's my first love, I guess you could say. And therefore, it's not always monetarily fruitful. So pivoting and being open to pivoting to doing the media stuff. And now I edit videos and I edit podcasts. That's mostly what I do is post-production. And so that's kind of how that happened. I know it seems unlikely, but it's just something that kind of naturally came about.
It's kind of interesting story there. And, obviously I have to ask the obvious question of, that everyone asks, how many times you've been bit?
I get bit almost every day just because I have a bunch of babies. And when babies are first hatched, they are super, super sketchy because they are afraid of everything. If you think about it, a baby snake, especially the ones I work with, are about as big as an earthworm. And as you know, about everything eats an earthworm. So about everything will eat a baby snake. So they come out defensive because that's the only way that they can survive in the wild. And therefore, though it doesn't hurt or it never breaks the skin, they still bite me almost every day. At least the babies do. The adults, not so often.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear. That's one of my big phobias. So I had to get that out there and get that out of my head that how many times you're getting bit. Because that's just, that's my mental picture is, kind of like the picture that I see on the screen over your shoulder there is, that's the image that comes to my mind. Big
Yeah,
mouth open coming at me.
I think one of the things that I get a lot is like, oh, you seem so normal until you hear about the snake thing. And to me, it doesn't go hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be some crazy person to work with snakes or to appreciate snakes. And just like any other fear, of most fears are irrational, right? Meaning that there's
Right.
no severe consequences, unless obviously it's a venomous snake. Stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But fear is mostly irrational. And once you push past that, I mean, you realize how simple and calm and everything my snakes are. And if you held one, I think your mind would change over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, podcasting and doing, videos and lives and, different things of that sort. And even the seminars that I do, that's sort of people that know me really well know that I'm also very shy. So, that's when you're saying, the irrational fears, it's kind of interesting that, you point that out, because that is true. This is sort of my therapy is, it gets me over something that otherwise, by nature, I would certainly not, put myself out there publicly and, on recording this therefore till the end of time,
and it's
but,
also, it's also like your fear may be snakes, but I'm probably just as afraid of my taxes as you are of snakes. And I'm sure you're cool with doing all your financial stuff. But it's like, that's so burdensome to me. So
yeah. Good point there. So, do you feel personally, Joe, that people should actively consider what they're doing that's going to impact their legacy?
yeah, I mean, I think you should have in some way enough respect for yourself to want to leave an impact on the world, because that's what makes you happy. I mean, it sounds good that, yeah, people after you and your family will remember you for something, but then again, and it's easy to do that in the reptile industry. There's like legends of the reptile industry and stuff like that. And of course and there is that in every field, and you want to get on that pedestal. You want to be one of those guys, but more importantly, you want to just make sure that you're making everyone around you better, and then you surround yourself with people that make you better as well.
Yeah, good point. So how do your views on your own personal legacy affect what you do with your business?
It affects me in the way that I really want to make sure that right now I'm working in development with a product. We are making it in the only certified organic animal bedding and cocoa peat. So the cocoa peat we'll use for plants as well as animal bedding. And we've been getting them in. My partner he's a biologist, but he also owns a family farm in India that does coconuts. And I've been getting in bales of this coconut bedding, and every time I probably drive him crazy. I say, this is unacceptable. That's wrong. This is wrong. I'm not going to sell this yet, blah, blah, blah. And he probably hates me, but it matters to me because my name matters in the industry. And once you get a mark on your name in the industry, it's hard to kind of make up for it. So if there's any little inconsistency with the product, I believe that goes back on me and ultimately affects my legacy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I like that you're kind of putting it in those terms, because, that's a very, very real, very visible, definition of, kind of how legacy works. Is that, with our name, it's something that it's very, very, very personal. It's something that we should cherish. And, your good name is hard to get back once you lose it. And so, everything that we do, personally and with business, we should be mindful, I think, be deliberate in what we're doing, like what you're mentioning there with that project or with the cocoa peat, that, you're very mindful and deliberate of what's going on there, because how that's going to reflect backwards. And so, it's certainly something that is very important, in the big picture.
Absolutely. And there's a rule in marketing called the 8-to-1. to where if something happens, if you do a great job, one person will leave a review or talk about it or tell a friend about it. If you do something to the negative side, 8 people will leave a review or talk about it. So the fact is that the negative things you do, the things that you don't follow through on as far as possible, are 8 times more likely to come back to you and more impactful, which is kind of unfortunate, but you got to be cognizant always of what you're putting out there and always put out a great product.
Yeah, and I certainly want to give you kudos. At 26, being able to to have that kind of a mindset. Kudos to you for that one, because I was much older than that before I started thinking with the bigger picture kind of stuff. At 25, 26, I was still seeking adrenaline. So.
Well, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at monitoring this whole thing and mapping out everything, because I still struggle often with, staying on the path, focusing, doing what I have to do, not getting caught up in other things. I mean, I am definitely no expert in this. I'm definitely no one who's talking from up on the hill who's successful yet. I wouldn't consider myself successful yet, but I just try every day to somehow get to that point and get a little bit better and a little bit more focused. And I mean, I keep snakes that keep me on my toes, so I get my share of adrenaline that way as well.
Yeah, and former MP, so hey, I guess you know a little bit about adrenaline there. So from a CEO standpoint, with either of your businesses, what would be maybe a couple things that keep you up at night that you think about as far as improving or changing or doing differently?
Really, right now, I'm going through the process of hiring my first employee. And I do have someone who I contract out some editing jobs and stuff to. And then I have another one that's more full-time. And just me not getting frustrated is really hard, because I really love that control. I really want things done exactly how I would do them. And quite frankly, being in the military as a squad leader, what I would do is, this is what we do, this is how we get it done, and we get it done without any questions. And that's not really how real life works, for better or worse. In real life, you have to manage your employees. You need to let them know your expectations. You need to constantly communicate. And I've been finding that it's almost harder to manage the employees than it is to just do the work myself. But I don't have the time to do my work all by myself at this point. So that's really, really been a struggle lately.
Yeah, I can certainly relate with that one, because I try to control everything with my business, and it's not always the best thing. There comes a time where, as a business owner, you have to delegate and take your hands off of the pet projects, because we look at our business, it's almost like our baby in a way, and we don't want to hand our baby to somebody that isn't going to handle them the same way that we handle them. But at the same time, we have to realize we have to look at it in a results based viewpoint as opposed to a process based. And just trust the other person to get to achieve it may not be the course that we would have taken, but to achieve the result that we want, and let them take their course, and then it becomes better for it when we're able to do that.
Absolutely.
But it's certainly part of the journey as well.
It's the only way that you can grow. I mean, it's a hindrance if you don't do so, and there's no way to scale your own self. And what are you going to do? Right. Not sleep? Or eventually you get to this point, and I think, I don't know, it's been a struggle to get past that.
Yeah, I understand. So do you believe it's important that people create strategies and processes for themselves, both in a personal life and a business life?
I can't say that I am that by the book. That makes it sound like very planned out, your process of doing everything. I haven't gotten to that point where I have processes within my breeding business, within how I clean things, how I do things, just from a standpoint of that's going to save me a lot of time. I haven't done a great job of creating processes in other aspects of my business. I'm still working on that, like I said, with the employees. But it's definitely important to save your time and also not always I find myself pulled in way too many directions, right? So there's like something